Hey folks, it's been a minute. Wait, hold on, give me a second. All right, better. So this is something that I've been sitting on for actually a long time, like since the game first came out. But every time I've sat down to record it, it just never comes out right. So I'm gonna simplify this as much as I possibly can. This is a video going over the best and worst crops in every single season. If you want full details on all of the crops in the seasons, I have the spreadsheets down below in a Google Drive. But today, I'm just gonna go over with you the best, the worst, my reasoning for it. But for this, we're just gonna go through the seasons as they appear in the game and just go over everything important. Now, before we begin, it's important to understand what we're looking at when we look at these sheets. So from left to right, we have the crop itself, the price of the crop, the sell price of the crop, how much time it takes for that crop to grow, if applicable, how much time it takes to regrow, the gross payout per day or gross price per day that you can expect from the crop, as well as the gross price per season of the crop, which is just if you have this crop on this tile from day 1 to day 28, this is how much money that tile will generate. And then we have tree pay per day and tree pay per season. And both of these are just for a tree that was planted in a previous year. Because the way that trees work, trees never go away. So after you've planted your tree for the first time, every season after that, you don't have to factor in the price of the tree. You don't have to factor in the 14-day initial growth time. It's a whole different thing, so it deserves its extra category. And then finally, I have the rankings, which I just assigned a ranking F through A to every single crop in the game. You're only really going to be wanting to plant A rank crops with some niche uses for B and C. Now, getting that out of the way, let's start in spring. Currently, the best crop in the game in spring is peas. Peas are a regrowing crop, so you do not have to worry about consistent long grow times, which is important. And you also don't have to worry about constantly rebuying the plant. They also sell for the second most in the season, only behind the lettuce, but that takes 9 days to grow, so it's not even close. As for the worst crop in the game, the worst crop is definitely the turnip, generating about 3.75 gold per day. It's pretty awful. I mean, if you don't have any money, you can go for it, but generally speaking, not worth your time, not worth the tiles. Only other thing to mention here, and something I will continue to mention in every season, is that trees are the only passive form of money making in this game. Everything else requires you to do something, but as soon as you have planted that tree, you only have to harvest it. You don't have to water it. You don't have to pet it and feed it like an animal. It will just sit there from the day you plant it to the day you stop playing the game. So if you're looking for just a little bit of passive income, it's a pretty good choice. Now into summer, which previously held the best crop in the game, we actually have 2 pages because summer, as you would expect, is abundant and there's a lot of things for you to plant. But of all of them, the best one is tea. Tea sells for 135 gold and is another regrow plant, so we will always go for our regrow plants. You'll see that pattern. And it's also able to be turned directly into green tea with just a single ingredient. And this gives you an extra 10 gold on the sell price, as well as activating all of the recipe bonuses, like additional material back or additional green tea whenever you make a green tea, right? So that's really important. This actually used to be the best crop in the game, but it's changed since a certain update, and we will get into that in the next one. But it's important first to give our dishonorable mention to the worst crop in the entire game, and I believe it's a daisy? I don't even remember. It's one of the flowers, right? Selling for a whopping 1.25 gold per day, 35 gold in the entire season. I mean, I don't even know if this crop is worth the time that it takes for you to go over and water it, right? I would just sell the seeds if you got the seeds, because it's so worthless. I'm sure it's great for giving people increased happiness with you, but you can also just get the recipe bonuses that give you liked or loved universal gifts for people, and you don't have to worry about it. So don't get it unless you're going for some hyper completionist thing and you have to give everybody everything. It's not necessary. Now we move on to fall, where things get a little bit more complicated. See, for the longest time, I would have told you that either onion or cranberry are the best crops in this season. Onion because it sells for 135 and it is a regrowing crop, so that's obviously a great option. And then cranberry because it sells for 125, but can be turned directly into cranberry juice, which, as we have talked about, gives those recipe bonuses, right? So these two were the best for a long time. But recently, a new perk was added into the game, and if you have it, then wheat becomes the best in the game. What it does is it takes the time down for the amount of time it takes for something to be milled by an additional, I believe, 10 minutes. And when stacked with the other versions of that perk, you can get the time to mill wheat from, I believe it's like 10 or 20 minutes down to 0 minutes, which means you can do it infinite times in a day, which does not restrict your ability to use it as a valuable source, right? Because initially that was my problem with it, is like, if we're looking, because you and I, right, if you're here for the best crops in the game, I imagine that you're looking to make like serious money on the game, right? And so if you were limited by the amount of time that you had in the day just to like mill all of it, it makes it less optimal, right? But now that that time is non-existent, you can mill it into wheat, which gives it an increased sell price, and then mill it and then take it from the wheat and turn it into bread, which I believe has a sell price of like 185 and is going to give you these extra benefits from the cooking recipes. I mean, at that point, that is undisputably the best crop in the game. The only issue is that for it to be the best crop in the game, you do have to have all of those milling perks, and you do need all of those cooking perks, but they're not that hard to get. If you have those, it is the best crop in the game. Going to the worst crop in the game, though, we have, I believe it's sweet potato or yam, one of those. Sells for 3.75 gold a day, right? This is the same crop as turnip, essentially. So again, you know, low cost, low sell price is just, it's a cheap option if you need to fill slots, but just don't bother with it. Moving on now finally to the winter crops. It's scarce. I mean, as you would expect, because it is winter, not many things are going to grow in winter. But we do still have one crop that's a regrowing crop, and that's our snow peas, and thusly it is our best crop of the season. No surprise there, right? It's selling for 135. It's honestly just as good as onion, which we've gone over before, has potentially been, the best crop in fall before all of the updates, right? So obviously, if you're gonna plant things in winter, you're gonna plant snow peas. But yeah, and then our sweet potato turnip equivalent in this one is beet. Again, selling for 3.75 gold per day. It's laughable. It's not even worth the time, right? But yeah, there we go. I mean, basic things to take from that. The only passive source of income, true passive source of income in this game, I guess unless you consider having to harvest it is not passive, in which case I guess nothing is, right? Is the trees. So if you're ever looking for just like a little bit of passive income, just plant some trees. And generally in any season, regrow crops are king. Just plant a bunch of regrow crops early in the season and reap what you sow from there on. It's not that hard. And yeah, best crop in the game is, I would say, either tea, or if you have all of the perks, I would say it's wheat. So there you go.